warm welcome. Thanks very much for tuning in. You're watching the Morning News Hour.
And I'm Pratibha. Let's get you the top headlines this hour. First up, let's get you the big story of the day. Nancy Pelosi is in Taiwan, and she also met the Taiwanese president earlier today, also addressing the media and the country, reiterating the U.S. relationship with Taiwan. More than 20 Chinese military planes, meanwhile, have entered Taiwan's airspace on the day of Pelosi's visit.
This is also coming across as misinformation also doing the rounds there, where Taiwan continuously has been saying that there is no such kind of a situation that is building up at its borders. Mr. Ray Locker is with us, the U.S. defense expert, joining us here on the broadcast. Thank you very much, sir, for taking out your time and speaking to us here on Times Now. Looking at the current situation and China continuously saying that the United States would have to bear consequences, what does it mean?
I don't really know what these consequences could be. I don't think China is going to do anything militarily against Taiwan. I mean, once it became obvious that Pelosi was planning to go there, it was probably foolhardy for her to not go there, because it looked like China would be pushing her around and telling the United States what to do. And it's totally within her rights to go. I don't know what the repercussions could be. There could be some trade ramifications, but I doubt anything's going to happen militarily.
Okay. In fact, the White House had also said that U.S. is not going to be intimidated by China and the kind of threats that they've been giving out. So support that has been coming in. But this comes at a time when the relation between China and United States has also been strained. How do you think that this visit, with her statement now reiterating that we are with the people of Taiwan, is going to affect the relationship?
Well, I would imagine, even though both sides aren't saying this right now, that there have been some conversations between the United States and China about this visit, what it all means, what kind of steps China may take, what we are going to say. Sometimes these things, which seem like they're very controversial, are often choreographed. So there's a possibility that could happen. But it's not really in China's best interest to do anything too dramatic. I mean, they derive most of their income from trade with the Western world. And the U.S. is a huge market for them, and it would be foolish for them to do anything to disrupt that.
Right, but, looking at the current, circumstances and the situation that has been panning out, even United States is in the lee of recognizing Taiwan as an independent nation, though Nancy Pelosi has been saying that them giving the assurances that they stand with democratic countries. How about when it comes to the recognition of Taiwan?
Oh, United States is not going to recognize Taiwan. That would be too dramatic a step. Taiwan exists in this weird international relations limbo. It's going to stay there probably for the foreseeable future because, China, the risks of China invading Taiwan, I think, are too great. I mean, you look at what happened with Russia and Ukraine. I mean, Russia has not really acknowledged Ukraine as a real country. It invaded. It's a catastrophe for both countries. I think the Chinese know that that's what would be in store for them if they did something to Taiwan.
Okay, but how do you think China is going to respond? Do you think that it's going to be taken up diplomatically, or do you think it could escalate further?
I think it'll probably be diplomatically, maybe some tit-for-tat moves economically. But again, I believe the stakes are too high for it to really, go much further beyond that.
Right. Mr. Locker, request you to stay on with us. Let's get an Indian perspective on this. Srinjoy is also with us here on the broadcast, because Srinjoy, the Indian point of view here, how exactly are we looking at it, looking at the situation and the dynamics that is also building between the India-China borders and now with the borders there at Taiwan?
Well, the first thing is that India recognizes the People's Republic of China in Beijing. It does not recognize Taiwan. That's something that the Americans also do. The important point here is that India has some kind of relationship with Taiwan. India's relationship is a political office, political and social and economic office in Taipei. The Taiwanese have a similar one in Delhi. The embassy is in Beijing, and India believes in one China. Now, it also has to be said that one of India's biggest trading partners, despite the problem in the border, despite what has happened in Galwan, in Ladakh, and so on, is still China. So India has to be very careful here. India has always made it very clear that there is one China. In fact, the fact that China has been recognized, the People's Republic of China has been recognized, India has had something to do with it in the past. But as far as this problem with America and China is concerned, India is looking at it very closely because there are economic issues here that have to be looked at. There are diplomatic issues that have to be looked at. Yes, India recognizes Beijing. There's no problem there. But if there is an economic war between America and China, the world could be affected, and tangentially India could also be affected. Let us hope that India is sufficiently insulated against a possible economic war between America and China. But we will have to be careful because China is the producer of a huge quantity of goods in the world. A lot of China's exports are to India and yes, to the United States. Even today, the United States imports a lot of Chinese goods, and it will continue to do so for at least a while till it finds another seller of similar goods. Now, India will also have to be careful because if economic troubles break out between these two countries, these two economic superpowers, India should not be caught in the middle.
Okay, all right. Mr. Locker, talking about the U.S. policy towards Taiwan, it's been very ambiguous. And now with Nancy Pelosi's visit as well, the only statement coming in from the White House has been that the threats of China, the U.S. is not going to bow down to it. But as far as supporting or giving a clear statement on Nancy Pelosi's visit, there has been none from the Biden administration.
That's right. It doesn't feel it needs to weigh in on that. I mean, Nancy Pelosi is an independent actor in U.S. politics. Members of Congress travel all over the world. Sometimes they coordinate that with the White House, sometimes they do not. I don't believe that she did this without talking to the White House first. I mean, that's just not the way it works with a speaker and a president of the same political party. So I imagine there was some kind of coordination and examination of the risks, and then they decided to go forward. And once you decided, they weren't going to pull her back because it would look like they were kowtowing to the Chinese. Another thing to recognize is China is making a lot of threats against Taiwan recently, very similar to what Russia was doing pre-February against Ukraine. And I think in the context of Russia and Ukraine, it was important that Pelosi felt it was important for her to go to Taiwan and make a statement about that.
Right. But in that phone conversation, what is being said that lasted for over 2 hours now, there were several contentious issues that also talked about Taiwan as well. And not much details of what has happened from the US's side has actually been, declared, or the information is out. And mainly when it comes to the other issues like meeting face to face or even cooperation in climate change apparently were hashed out, Mr. Locker.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of things we're not going to know about. Did she really need to go to Taiwan? I think that's a big question many people have. Probably not. But, she makes a statement there. She's getting a lot of support in the United States for going, including from Republicans who are not normally supportive.
Okay. But, from the U.S. perspective, if you can tell us, how do you view this visit? Because it's for the very first time in decades that such a senior leader from your side is visiting Taiwan. From the country's perspective, if you can tell us, how crucial has this visit been?
Well, my suspicion is in a week, we're probably not going to be talking about it. Passions are high right now, but things tend to change. I think there are greater issues at stake than her visit. I mean, the world economy depends on what the United States and China do. And I think, personally, I think it would be foolhardy to disrupt that over this one visit, which really is not that important.
Right. Srinjoy, if I can come back to you on that, because even as presidents of different countries and the two important and very powerful countries, they are yet to meet face to face. But even having phone conversation doesn't seem to have that kind of a relationship between two healthy nations that would have overgoing when it comes to the tensions, what's been happening in Ukraine, what's been happening at India borders, and now in Taiwan.
See, that it has to be understood that the Chinese do not understand democracy, the nuances of democracy. To them, America is one monolithic piece. And to them, the Chinese probably think that this has been decided upon by Biden and Pelosi and everybody else. Now, the fact that Nancy Pelosi can have a slightly different point of view is something that Chinese do not understand. But to answer your question, the last conversation was almost a disaster, because there Xi Jinping actually warned Biden, saying that, look, if you do certain things, 1, 2, and 3,
right,
then we will take action. It was that kind of conversation.
All right, so that did not go as it was planned, though it went on for over 2 hours. What is being said so far, and less details are coming out from both of the countries exactly what was discussed. Mr. Ray Locker, thank you very much for taking out your time and speaking to us right here on Times Now. Srinjoy, thanks very much to you as well.